So good morning, everybody. I mean, I'm really excited to be with you this morning. So it's, a little earlier here in the really exciting state of Iowa where I live here, and I'll show you my slide here in just a minute. But I've heard so much about the work you're diving into and the work that you're trying to do, and just huge kudos to you. It's what incredible work. And as I learn more about all the stuff you guys are taking on and the lessons and the ideas and what you're trying to do for the kids, you know, I was working and communicating with my supervisors like this is what we need to be doing more in the work that we do where I live here in Iowa. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump over here, um, kind of just set the stage here a little bit. I'll let you know up front that throughout this presentation, you will get access to everything on these slides. You'll get the slide deck. I built a website out for you for everything that we share and discuss and explore today. You will have complete access to, as well as another tool we're going to use called Google Jamboard. And so you will have all that. It'll be shared throughout the presentation and again at the end, and I'll make sure that that goes out in a follow-up email. So if you see stuff today, you're like, ooh, I want that. I promise it's all here for you. So just be aware of that. I know sometimes we dive in and I get really nerdy excited in this work, and you're gonna be like, but what's that link? Like, I promise it'll all come your way. So first off, I mean, who is this tall, bald, ugly guy talking at you here bright early this morning? And so my name's Aaron Maurer. I live in Bettendorf, Iowa. My job is STEM lead. So I support 21 school districts on the eastern side of Iowa in STEM, computer science, makerspace, learning space design. So spent 14 years at a middle school teaching, and now I've moved into this role, developing a lot of these experiences for classrooms and for students and for schools and districts. So it's been incredible work. I am a Lego education master educator. So I do lots of stuff for schools all over the nation, pre-COVID, back when you would travel and do things. To kind of really my passion through all this is purposeful play, how we bring back hands-on learning experiences to the classroom. And that's obviously been a huge challenge with COVID and all the things that we have, but we still can't let that be a barrier to the things that we know work with our students and our kids. So um, I want to make sure that that set the stage there for the work that I do. This is our going to be our agenda today. I don't want to talk at you. It'll be a little bit at the beginning to set the stage, but really looking at the what and why of purposeful play. And I know a lot of this you probably already need and already know. So it's just going to kind of further solidify the ideas that you have as you start to think about your lessons and your ideas and things you do with the kids. I want to experience play. So I know maybe not all of you have access to Legos this morning. So we will attempt to do a digital Lego build here in just a little bit. And then you will have then and a follow-up complete access to all this lessons and stuff. And this would be something you'd want to use with your own students. And so I have it all built out as a lesson project already. And then give you time to explore. So I've put together a site that will give you all the links, activities, projects, lessons, things that we have been doing with classrooms in the area that I work with and other places for you to dive into and explore to see what's out there. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go through and figure out like, what does this look like for me? Give you some time to explore that here in our session today, and then come back and kind of just share out with those things. So throughout this, you have an opportunity for lots of questions and thoughts and ideas. And so we obviously have the chat here in the Zoom for you to share things as well. I've also put together a Jamboard. So I'm going to put this in the chat here as well. If you haven't used Jamboard, it's just basically a digital whiteboard. It's pretty simple in premise. And so you should all be able to have editing rights to this, so just know that. And I'll bounce over. I'll kind of show you how this works here real quick. I don't want to spend forever on it, but at least so you can, if you've never used Jamboard before, have an idea of what this does. And so I've got here 4 frames, and you can see the frames up here. We're on frame 1 out of 4. This is the frame here. You can go over here and add a sticky note, or if you just want to edit and type text, you can do that. A place to put any questions that you have throughout this presentation. And I will come back and answer a lot of these questions at the end while you're doing some of your processing work for you to go through, and I'll make sure that I capture that for you. We'll come back to the same Jamboard a little bit later, and you're going to share some new ideas that you've gathered. And that's what these frames 2 and 3 are for. And so you access those by these arrows up top. So this is just a place for us to share any thoughts, aha moments, new ideas, questions, wonderings you have. Then that way it's all captured for you, and also allows me to kind of, when you're working through, to make sure that I address those things and follow up. If we run out of time today, I can put links and comments right into this Jamboard, and so that you have follow-up support with that. So I just want to make sure that you have that while we're doing some of this work here this morning. And so that's for you to kind of capture those thoughts and ideas. So feel free to start adding things to that while we rock and roll. And so I want to go ahead here and dive into some of this work. I want to get going because I want to get this digital Lego build going up and running to you kind of experience what this looks like. And so I want to start with just curiosity and inquiry. And so here's just a really nerdy Lego trivia that maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't know, but it's always good that the plural version of Lego is Lego. So you hear lots of people always say, "Man, I love my Legos. Where do I get Legos?" And that's actually you just say Lego. So a little nerdy trivia, Brian, early this morning for you. You can either stick that in your wallet and use it later, or just delete it and move on and pretend that you don't need that. So let's take a look at why play is needed. And I know that I'm speaking to people that get this, but I think that it's also a good reminder because of COVID and because of hybrid and online and very little face to face, it's also been really easy for a lot of play to fall to the wayside. It was already falling to the wayside enough when it was face to face. And purposeful play is not just the responsibility of a teacher. It's the responsibility of building in community, helping parents learn how to play, helping kids learn how to play. One of the biggest things we're seeing now is kids actually really don't know how to play. All they know how to do is be consumed by their devices. And so what's that look like to play? And so as we think about this, I really like this idea. Mitch Resnick talks about this in Lifelong Kindergartner. You see it in a lot of work by Marina Bears as well. What I like about Lego, and you can replace Lego with any materials you have. I mean, we've done these same type of activities with popsicle sticks, cotton balls, and paper clips. Like, material is really irrelevant. You don't need to have a $10,000 budget for the next, whatever the next shiny bright object is in the ed tech world. But what we want to do is have a low floor, meaning that anybody can do this work, whether it's skill set or mindset. And we have a lot of kids, and maybe some of you are a little fearful knowing that I told you we're going to do some digital Lego building here in a minute, that don't believe they can do that work. And so we want to make sure that there's an easy entry point. But for those that are confident, for those that have the skills, for those that have done some of this work, we want that high ceiling. We want it to be open enough where they can take it to their level of expression, creativity, and learning needs. And then we have these wide walls. And what we mean by that is we got to have some constraints, but we want to have it wide enough that kids can take any path they want to get to that high ceiling. So Lego is a perfect little solution because you can use any bricks you want to get to that endpoint, and however you build it is the answer. And you could replace that again with any material. So as you're thinking about your lessons, you're thinking about your activities, how do we get that low threshold to get in, opportunities for excellence, and then many pathways to get to that end piece? Because we all operate, think, process differently. I love this quote. I use it in almost every presentation I give, whether we're talking about play or just anything when it comes to education. That play and learning are like two wings of a butterfly. One can't exist without the other. I'm watching my high school student right now, or my son, not student, and I watch him sit in these online calls right now with his back turned on his phone, just listening to a teacher drone on and on and on and lecture, and he's just bored, he's disengaged. And the times are tough for teachers, I know, but there's got to be ways not just to have my son log in every day and be talked at for an hour. Like, you lose them. It's already a tough enough battle now trying to get them to join online. So how do we start to bring some of these experiences to the fold? And we can talk about this, and maybe this is more for older folks like myself here, but I still think of laptops and mobile phones as high-tech tools, but for kids, that's just what they know. They don't know any different. My youngest daughter, this is just the world she's in. Like, it's not wow and exciting. It's just like, yep, there it is. But because of that, play has been lost. It's not being done at home. It's not being done at school. Sure, heck, hands-on stuff hasn't been going on. Of COVID has really put a pause on all that because we have been consumed by these tech that's just so in our face all the time. And so we need to bring that back. And we know that it matters. We know creativity matters. I mean, let's just take COVID, not to keep I'm bringing this up, but it's right in our faces right now, right? Like creativity has been more vital than ever before as a perfect example of our society as doctors and specialists are trying to find those solutions, and they have solutions. And look at the education system, how hard we're trying to figure out how do we keep kids engaged? How do we get them to log in? How do we get them to keep learning when we've lost that physical space that brought them together, that brought the community, that brought our face-to-face interactions? Creativity has been used more than ever before in a lot of our lives. So the question that I have for you this morning is, how can we encourage educators to cultivate creativity in children, and more importantly in ourselves? It starts with us. If we're not confident in the creativity, it's really hard for us to turn around and then try to bring those opportunities to the students in the classrooms. And so I want to put this one small caveat in here, because in education, as you all know, or will soon know, we love to assess everything. We love to put data points on every single thing that we do. And I think when it comes to creativity, and it's more of my own philosophy, so you don't have to agree with this, but I think we have to be very careful when it comes to the assessment of creativity. And I love this quote by Natalie Russ that says, assessing creativity is less about proving creativity and more about finding ways to improve the creativity. So being very careful that we're not shutting down the vulnerability of students by us judging whether their ideas are creative or not, but how do we help them move to that next level of, I really think it's vulnerability, to be able to say, hey, I made this thing and I'm proud of it, and I'm putting it out in the world with the fear that someone may tell me it's not good enough. And if that happens enough in early ages with kids, that that door closes, and we have to be very, very careful with that. So my little small education rant warning this morning when it comes to assessments, because there is a pressure to put numbers to everything. So I'm going to go through these really quick. Again, I know you're going to get all these slides, but I want you to think about this as you're thinking about designing lessons. And I heard that you're going to get a chance to kind of revamp and maybe remix and develop some things. I want you to think not just about your content. I want you to think about your role as the educator in the lessons that you're developing. And I love these 4 ideas. And I already see a little grammar error that my Collaborator is lowercase there. That's going to drive me nuts. So I'm moving on quick here. But the first one is catalyst. One of your roles as an educator, depending on the stage of the lesson, depending on the activity you're doing, depending on your role in the moment, and you might be fluid and fly through these 4 things all within one lesson. You might stay in one role for quite a bit of time. You actually might even adjust from kid to kid or group to group that you're working with. But being aware of some of these roles that we can do. One is the catalyst. Your role in some of this might be to provide the spark. Your job might be to see that kid or that the class just not feeling like they're very confident in doing that work. You have to give them that model. You have to give them examples. You have to ask them questions. The key here is not to give them answers, but to give them the spark, the inquiry, the curiosity, the little nudge to go, I can do this. So sometimes we have to be that. We need that ourselves sometimes. Like, New Year's resolutions. Like, I'm trying to get a little bit fitter, a little bit more in shape. I've been saying that now for a long time. Like, I need a little spark. I need someone to kind of kick me in my pants to get me going, to get to that goal that deep down I want to get to. I just sometimes can't always do it enough on my own yet. Sometimes it's a consultant. And this is an important piece where we see the kids struggling, we see the group struggling, we see that they're just not making the headway that they want to get or we want them to get. And this is giving them tips and advice. The very important piece with this, and this is the hardest thing I see with teachers because your hearts are so big, you want kids to be successful, you want them to succeed. And so your heart comes in and you give them the answer. This is very important as a consultant. You never provide the answer, because if you do that, the end product is not theirs. And there's a different level of ownership to the end result when it's the teacher idea seeking, now the student's going, teacher, did you like this, to give gratification that way, versus me coming up to you as a teacher, the student going, hey, Mr. Maurer, I built this, look at this. So I think this is an important piece, and the hearts of teachers sometimes blend over from consultant to answer key, and we don't want to be that answer key. And so working through that to help them move forward, but not give them the answers. Sometimes it's being a connector. You can't do it all. And we feel like we have to take that burden on of knowing all the things, doing all the things. So I think it's also important to understand how to get kids to connect with one another, how to connect with experts in the field. Maybe it's another person in the building. Maybe it's a parent, like looking out to try to find these other connections. You don't have to do it alone. We don't want to expect our students to do it alone. You have to take that burden off your shoulders, thinking that you have to know all the things, know how to do all the things. Some of this stuff going out here, and it's one of the hardest hurdles when we work with educators, is this. I put out a challenge, and the kids are like, well, how do I do this? And for me to honestly be like, I don't know, but let's learn it together. And it changes the dynamics of a classroom. I do these Lego things with young kids, and I'll just sit on the floor, and they know that I know Lego. There's a reason I was brought into the school, right? And they'll be like, well, how do you build this marble maze? I'm like, I have no idea. Let's figure it out. And we sit and we go and we work through that. And all of a sudden they want to be the teacher. They want to teach me something. And sometimes we have to fake it, like, oh my, I didn't, you know what? Tell me more. I had no idea how to do that. So just helping them build those connections. And the last one here is Collaborator. Making sure that we're modeling, we're seeking, we're proving through our own work that we're lifelong learners. And kind of what I talked about earlier, the teacher as a student and the student as a teacher, understanding that collaboration between you and the students, and when to shift those roles and move those things through. So I think that's really important. I'm going to skip through a lot of these slides because I don't want to just talk at you the whole time. But I want to emphasize, I put these slides here more for you to kind of go back and just do some reflective thinking and some other food for thought, because I know we only had a small amount of time and I want to get interactive. But I do want to touch upon this. If you think about your learning experiences and you think about your learning spaces, virtual, face-to-face, combo, whatever it might be, this question has been one that I constantly come back to time and time again. And it's this: is your space a playground or a playpen? And this is vital in your lesson plan development and the activities you bring to your classroom, and coming back and looking at what are the learning space conditions you're creating for your students. So when we say playpen, what we're looking for here, what we're talking about is this idea that the environment is restricted. There's limited room to move, limited room to explore. The range of possibilities are really narrowed down, and there's lack of freedom. There might be a time and place for this. So I want to put the caveat there that a playpen isn't bad. There might be a time where we all need to do this one thing together because this is what's needed in the moment. So I'm not dismissing playpen completely. I'm not saying that if you have a playpen moment or an opportunity that it's bad, because it's not. You can't have all your eggs in one basket. But how do we have less of this, or using this strategically to get more to the playground? And this idea where we have room to move, we have room to explore and experiment and collaborate and create, and bringing all these things to light, like we talked about with the high ceiling and wide walls. And where are those opportunities within your lessons and your materials and the things that you want kids to be able to do? And so as we get through that, I'm going to go through here because I think this is some important information for you to set the stage. So one of the things that happens when you start to bring this play into the space is you might have community members question. You might have parents question, is this learning? Like, how do you know this? Like, I didn't bring my kid here for them just to play. Like, that is a very valid thing that happens almost every single time when we start to bring some of this stuff into the space, because there will be families, community members, board members, staff members that don't see this as value. They see it as a glorified recess. I see this a lot with a lot of administrators I work with. Like, we don't have time for this. We have time. We got to get our test scores up. So we don't have time to do this. But here is some important information, and I'll share this report so you can use it in case it happens. Hopefully, I feel like just in the small moment, you are very well supported. So I think you're in good shape there, but it may pop up in your future. This is a Gallup poll that was done in 5 different countries by Lego Foundation, as they were sharing of this, and this was 3 years ago. So I bet these numbers have probably even shifted quite a bit because of COVID. But, only 48% of students K-12 feel hopeful about their future. That's alarming, and something we need to think about. Only 34% of high school students feel engaged. And you can see the metrics, and we know that there's all sorts of data that show the engagement dropping down. And so this stuff is important. I know you're working with elementary, but this is even just as vitally important in high school and college level coursework as well. This here, as we think about the universal constructs in play and being creative and critical thinking and communication and collaboration, these soft skills or whatever, buzzword you want to insert with it. This one here is an important stat, and this number I guarantee has already jumped because of COVID, because they didn't see a global pandemic on the horizon. But as of 2018, 375 million people are going to have to reskill or upskill by 2030. What this means is their job is no longer going to exist. The idea that I take a job and I'm in that job for my entire career no longer is an option. The average person will have 14 jobs. And so as tech and everything changes and shifts, jobs change, you're going to have to constantly relearn. They say basically it's about a 5-year window for our kids when they get out to the workforce now. Every 5 years, they're going to have to build a new skill to adapt to a new job position, either within a company or another one, because it's going to be filtered out. And this is magnified quite a bit as of COVID. We've seen lots of jobs that they're not coming back, but there's going to be new opportunities. So it's not like the world is bleak and dreary. We just have to constantly be learning new all the time. And confidence is key. And so the confidence to me is where we can start to provide that spark. And we know that people want it. The parents want it. 93% of parents believe it helps. 99% of teachers believe it helps. We know what's there. So the question is, why are we not doing it? And or why how do we do more of it? And we can get into social emotional well-being. And I'm going to just skip through these to get to that point. But I want to get to this one here for you, because this is, I think, is really vital for you as the educator of these experiences. The power is not that you're bringing Lego to the classroom or a material to the classroom. The power is you. And the power is how you use the material to facilitate the learning, to create the conditions where a kid wants to share that idea that's sitting in their brain, that's excited about what they've developed, that gives them that new insight. And so it's not about, oh my gosh, I have this awesome Lego kit and the Lego is what's going to get the kids. Yeah, the initial excitement will be there, but the learning, the endurability of the activities lies with you. And so let's get into that. I'm talking a lot at you. I'm going to bounce out of this here. I don't know if there's been anything with in the chat or anything at this point, but I want to take you through an experience. So we're going to do a digital Lego activity that you could turn around and use with kids. And so I'm going to put here in the chat a link to a Google slide deck. And so this was designed when we all had to move into COVID, and teachers and we're like, oh my gosh, help me. Like, how do we do this? Like, how do I keep engagement? How do I get the kids to actually want to log in? All those things that we were trying to figure out. So I'm going to give you this slide deck. You can edit this. So just be careful that if you click and delete and hit your keyboard, you're going to be able to change everything that's in this slide. And so I will give you the resource for you to make your own copies and revamp and redo this. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to take you through a little mini lesson of an activity. And this one is based on storytelling and getting kids to put parts of a story together, how to express themselves, how to do all those types of things here. So I'm going to get my screen shared here back. And so I have, when you go to see this in the resource I'll share after this, I've got 5 different versions of this particular activity. So you can do this where every kid is in one Google slide. They have their own. I have it in PowerPoint. I have it in a PDF. I have it in any format of whatever your preference is. So we're going to be using these 6 Lego Duplo blocks here. And that's all you're going to need is this slide deck, yourself, and then of course if you got some coffee, which I live and breathe by, that's all we get. Here are your creative constraints. You're only going to have these 6 Lego bricks to do your building for today, and obviously we're digital, so we're not actually going to be able to actually physically click them together. So having constraints is important. A key question that pops up all the time with teachers is, man, I love your ideas, but I don't have all the Legos. Most of the activities that we do, you don't need any more than a kid having 15 to 20 Lego. And the pieces are really irrelevant because it's not about the build, it's about the idea behind it. Here are the rules that I use, and you can feel free to use this yourselves. And so we set the stage for our building and sharing when it comes to these hands-on experience. The build is the answer. So if I build something and I tell you it's a duck, it's a duck. Even if you don't see the duck, even if you think the build is terrible, if I say it's a duck, End of discussion. Everybody builds and everybody shares. You don't have an option not to. How much you share and how much you build, that's your choice. But we're going to create a space where we are comfortable expressing. There's no one right answer. So all the design challenges, there is not a solution, so to speak. As long as you can justify it, boom, that's what it is. We think with your hands or listen with your eyes. This is important for a lot of kids with confidence. When I'm sharing, we put our focus on the build and not the person. A lot of your introvert, your kids that maybe are lacking confidence, if they see 4 or 5 kids staring at them, they freeze up. And I'm not saying this is a magic bullet that solves everything, but I can't tell you how many times if I put this build out and everybody's looking at the build, how much subconsciously it takes pressure off me and I'm more willing to share as a result. And then, you know, the standard teacher classroom thing would be respectful in comments and builds. We're not here to tear anybody down. So you have on here, and I know there's lots of you on this chat here, and there's only 6 bricks, but I will kind of demo what happens here on these bricks. Is you're going to be able to adjust these when you go to build here in just a minute. And when you click on one of these bricks, you get this little blue dot, and I can move these around. I can drag them. I can put them wherever I want. So you're going to have your own slide here in just a second for you to manipulate these blocks. But basically you click, if you haven't done anything with Google Slides, this little blue dot will allow you to spin and move them around that way. So just so you're aware of how that works. Here is going to be your prompt. Your prompt this morning for your build is this. You're going to organize these 6 pieces to tell the story of your morning. And that's what our challenge is going to be here today. And so what this looks like is I'm going to put a timer up, and you're going to have 1 minute to build your organization of these 6 pieces of your morning. You're not going to have a whole lot of time. And some of you time that might give you a little bit of panic. So you can start thinking about that now. But I'll give you 2 examples of what this looks like. It could be that you just put them across by color, and each of these bricks means something. It could be where you're telling more of a story where the placement matters. I started here and I kind of peaked up and I dropped and I went back up, or whatever. Like, there's no right or wrong to how you organize your Lego bricks for to tell the story of your morning. So here's what we're going to do. On slide number 10, there are 40 slots. And what I want you to do is to go in here. All right. And you can just put your name or your initials, whatever, just so you can declare that that's your slide. And each of these numbers is a hyperlink, and it'll take you to your slide where you're going to do this work. So I'm going to give you a minute or so here just to get your name on there so you can declare your slide. And then you can go ahead and then click and get to your slide. And I'll tell you when we will begin, but I want to make sure you've got a chance here.
Thank you for providing opportunities for our students and teachers to teach them to create things. Yes, and that's the way we do this program.
So while you're putting your name in here, what's kind of cool if you do something like this digital, in case you can't be face to face, is I'll demo it here when you start to build. But I can switch my Google Slide to a gallery view, and then I can see like all of you building at one time. And it's a really cool experience. It's not the same as being in a classroom, but I can watch all the pieces start to move and shift, and it's kind of cool to see how that comes to play. And so I will do that here in just a minute while you guys are adding your names. Hopefully those hyperlinks will take you then to your slide. So once you've got your name, you just click the number, you'll get that bookmark. It'll take you, to your slide, wherever that might be. So we got a few more people jumping in there. So while you're doing that, I'm going to jump over here to the next slide. So your slide will look something like this, minus the timer. And this is going to be your canvas to move and manipulate your blocks, telling a story of your morning. And so I'm going to bounce back here. Look like we're getting close. So maybe about 15 more seconds, then we'll go ahead and get started here. What I will do is I'll put this timer up, and you're going to have 1 minute to kind of get organized. Now, please keep in mind.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We will all have an individual slide. We shouldn't be on the same slide, correct?
Correct.
So when we click on the link to the number where we put our name, no one else should be on that particular slide that it takes us to, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yep. Good question.
Noble.
All right. So hopefully you're at your slide here. I'm going to go ahead now and give you the 60-second timer of the countdown. And when that's over, if you're not done or it's not perfect, it's okay. The build again is irrelevant. It's more about the ideas behind it. So I will let you get to your slide and get building and see what you come up with here. All right, so there's our minute. I know some of you are still building, but I'll go ahead and show you here what's kind of cool is I can go here to this Gridville view while some of you are finishing up. And normally I have multiple screens, but I can go here and then I can see how all this is working. And this is pretty cool too. And the kids get a kick out of seeing this too. And I can zoom this way out and show all of them at the same time. But this is what's pretty cool. And you could do this as well since you have editing rights. If you go to view and then go to on your version, if you go to grid view, you could go through and kind of see all the different designs. But here's what I want to do next year while you're kind of finishing up. And if you're not all the way done, that's okay. What I want to do next year, let me get out of this, is I'm going to give you 2 minutes now. And what I want you to do down in the slide notes down here in the notes, you can drag this up and make this bigger or smaller too, is I want you to write your story of your build. And so now we're going to put words to our ideas. If I'm working with kids or, with you, it depends on your goals. You could have them write in paragraph form. You could actually just have them say like blue brick equals, red brick equals, however you want to structure it. But I want to give you 2 minutes. And that 2 minutes, if you need to keep kind of tweaking your bricks a little bit, you can. But I'm going to go ahead and start this timer here. Give you 2 minutes to write your story, 2 minutes to kind of finish up your build, and we'll see where we are at the end of that one. Maybe here, my video doesn't want to play. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna skip this ahead here since I had a little bit of a glitch here. right, so there's our time. Hopefully that gave you enough time there to at least get going. So let's do this. Let's see here. Let's stop that. Let's see, we got about 20 minutes. Okay. Normally what I would do, and I want to make sure you got time to explore some resources so you can apply. What we would normally do after this is we would go into breakout rooms, smaller groups. We know people tend to share more freely and openly in smaller groups versus a whole group like this, and have you guys kind of share your builds that way, and have those conversations. And the aha moments is really seeing how people take bricks, move them around, and the insights they see within them. And that's where the true learning is. This is the part that usually gets cut off a lot, and actually it's what we're going to be doing here now for the sake of time. But this is the most vital piece. It's not actually the build itself, it's the sharing of the idea. Because all of a sudden I see how you frame these bricks. I'm like, oh man, I never thought of it that way, or I never thought of blue that way, or I never thought of, in this case, moving the brick at an angle this way. And the same thing happens when we build these pieces together. But what I want to do is at least present the opportunity, and I know it's a bigger group, but are any of you brave enough to want to share to the whole group? And then we can just, obviously everyone has access to the slides, so you can just tell us what slide number your build was. We could quickly just kind of go to that, and you could kind of give a quick little share. Do we have any brave souls that would want to do that? I'm not trying to force anybody.
Go.
All right. I'm not sure.
Nicole.
Okay,
right?
Nicole. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So
okay, I'm slide 18.
Okay.
So what I did was I looked at the colors and I described how my day goes. So I start off on a high note. I love the mornings and the calmness of the morning. And as I go through my morning, it goes up. But at around 2:33, I start my decline, which is the blue. And by 7:30, I crash, which is the red. So that's what I did with mine.
I can feel that. I can feel the crash and burn. I can completely relate on that one big time. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing and being brave to jump on there and do that. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share.
All right, awesome. What slide are you? That's Lauren, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I am 8.
Number 8. Okay.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Does it go by the order we signed up?
There you go. Yep. So you'll be slide. You're on your slide 22. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We got you.
I'm not
Nope.
22. I have a big L on the side of it. Let's see. My
slide 11.
It's 11. Thank you.
Okay. There we are. That number 11.
So I decided to make an L to represent me, and I finished my schoolwork, and the teacher just taught us about animals that fly. So, and she also taught us about a bird's eye view. So I wanted to get that experience. So I went outside and I saw a tree that I thought I could climb to get that perspective, but it was too tall. So I used some resources and made little steps so I could see what a bird's eye view is.
Awesome. I love it. So you can see here in these two examples how if we were just to scroll through these slides, obviously with just only 6 bricks and obviously digital, they're not necessarily like earth shattering. But as you hear people's stories, all of a sudden that orange brick and that blue brick of the stairs has a whole different meaning and context. And this is why it's so vital for the share piece. So we present a challenge, we allow them to build, and then that third piece of that expression and sharing is so important. Whether they're just sharing directly with you using a tool like Flipgrid, whether they're going to write down below, whether they're going to share whole group or small group, don't leave that part out. And in a classroom, if you had chance to hear all these, like if we were to go through each of these slides, we would hear 40 different incredible versions of how they interpreted just 6 simple bricks. And you can do these same things with popsicle sticks, like rainbow colored popsicle sticks. Give them a box of crayons. Like the material is really, really irrelevant. They will put incredible meanings behind things that, you know, taking abstract concepts into very concrete items. And that's really what I want you to get out of this lesson, this experience is, you know, we were to go through all that and see all of a sudden we could do that. You could replace this prompt. So here's an awesome formative assessment, because sometimes we have to know where kids are in the learning. And I have this as an activity that you'll see here in just a minute. But take these 6 bricks, replace that storyline of tell a story of your morning, make it your learning target of the day. Take these 6 bricks and tell me, show me a model that you understand what a run-on sentence is. Show me a model of what revolution is. Show me a model of the spelling word, you know, hippopotamus. Like, take your learning target, give them 6 simple bricks like this, digital, physical, whatever, and have them build a model. Then what's really great with the formative assessment is you know exactly if they get it. If they can build a model and talk about it, you're like, yep, they got it. Like, I don't need a paper pencil test. I don't need a multiple choice. I know they got it. More importantly, if they're working in small groups this way, I hear 5 people express. One model that we like to do is, so we'll take the word revolution and everybody builds a model. And then I put them in groups of 4 or 5 and they share how their build represents revolution. I'm going to see 5 different interpretations, 5 different visual cues, 5 different explanations of revolution. All of a sudden that stores in my brain. And I might sit there and go, man, Nicholas's build was incredible. Like that, his build made more sense than my own build. Now I've got a visual and I heard auditory and I'm learning from my peers. It's a win-win-win combo over and over again. And so you can gather a lot of this stuff using just a very quick little activity. You can do it as an exit ticket. You can do it as a little formative, however you want to use it. So you can replace that prompt with whatever you need. So I know we're running, we got 15 minutes. So I want to get one more thing here for you. So here's what I want to do for you. I want you to get some other ideas. I want you to get a chance to explore some thoughts and activities and other things beyond just this digital one. So I'm going to throw here in the chat a link to the website that I've put together here for you. And then I'm going to share my screen here again and explain. I want to give you probably have about 10 minutes since we've only got 14 minutes here together. But here's what you're going to do. You're going to get some time to explore on the site, share on the Jamboard on frames 2 or 3. If you find something that you think is really helpful, throw that on the Jamboard so other people can know where to go and look. Like you're also kind of curating and finding what might be helpful. We're not gonna have time for the breakout room, but maybe we can do a quick little share out here at the end. So the website looks like this, and this is what I was sharing with you earlier, that you're gonna have access to everything. This page here has all my contact information if you want it, the Jamboard, the whole slide deck's right here. But these right here is what we just did, the digital lesson. And you can click that link. It'll give you all the links to all the different versions and how to use it, and a video guide. I even did a recording if you just needed me to like do the lesson for you, even though it's not as exciting as you. But here's where I want you to do some exploration. The website itself, this website here, contains all the stuff I've done. We've got literacy lessons we've used with elementary here locally that the school in either in the bottom 5% of our state. And so we are trying to get their help and just engagement and community involved. So there's literacy on here. There are social emotional learning lessons on this website. There's this digital lesson. There's lots of things here just on this website itself. During COVID, I have ran quarantine build challenges, and we've had thousands of families and schools participate all over the world. So all of those build challenges are there if you just kind of need like an icebreaker or a brain break or something that way. I've launched a Purposeful Play with Lego course. The course isn't currently running, but all the materials and accessibility, everything is there free, and you can check that out. And then Lego Foundation has a playlist of some really incredible ideas and lessons and things you can do. There's a couple articles here. And then there's the Lego Ornament Challenge, which I know it's not holiday season, but it might trigger some thoughts of things you can do. And then finally on my blog, all the different lessons that I've done with schools. So let's go, it's not gonna be a whole lot of time, but let's go, let's do about 7-8 minutes and about like 8, or it'd be 9 for you, like 9:56, we'll kind of come back whole group and we'll kind of wrap up with some thoughts here, because I want to be respectful of your time, but give you some time here to explore these links, see if you can find something helpful. And if you do, make a little note and throw it here in the Jamboard so other people kind of know where to curate and look, because I know there's lots of links there. And while you're doing that, I'll go back and double check the chat. I'll double check the questions and then we'll follow up with anything you might need and next steps. So I'll be quiet, let you start clicking and exploring, and we'll touch base here in about 6-7 minutes. So we've got about 2 more minutes here. So if you've got questions or there's things that stood out that you really liked, whatever that might be, if it's easier, you can just throw it here in the chat too. I know we've got the Jamboard, but if that's a new tool, it's also sometimes I know it can be a little tricky. So whatever works best for you, throw those in there. That'll make sure those things get addressed here in our final 5 minutes together. So still got about 2 minutes to kind of click and explore, but if there's anything there, questions or thoughts or ideas, throw them in the chat, throw them on the Jamboard, and we'll definitely make sure those get addressed here before we wrap up our time together. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes left here together. And so as we kind of wrap up, just a reminder that on that website that you just shared and explored on there is everything that you need. If you want access to the slides, that's there. That digital Lego activity is there for you to use as well as all the resources. My contact information is there. So if you feel like you need to reach out and just want a brainstorm partner, you want to bounce ideas off, or you want me to kind of help look over things, I'm more than willing to help any of you out in your journey with any of this stuff as you try to piece that stuff together. Sometimes it's nice just to have another set of eyes, someone outside of who you're currently working with. So just know that offer stands for any of you. My email, all that stuff is there. If there's things that you're looking for that you need help with, always feel free to reach out. So I just want you to know that I'm more than happy to be another support person in your journey as you dive into this work. And so I know we crammed a lot in 60 minutes. I know lots of food for thought. I know it's still early in the morning and things like that. And so hopefully you got a couple new ideas, new takeaways, maybe some ideas early on cemented your thoughts of how you're already approaching your learning and teaching. Maybe there's some new thoughts that you can use. And a lot of that too is designed to help you to be an advocate for the things that you know are important for kids. And so, doing a lot of this advocacy work right now, even though it's tough times, doesn't mean that we still can't provide these opportunities for kids and for ourselves. So that's important as well, because those are things that you're going to need to continue to do in education, not just now, but in the future and wherever that might be. So are there any thoughts or questions or ideas that you guys have? You can jump on and share anything like that in our final couple minutes here together. All right, well, if there aren't any, I appreciate you taking time. Yeah, there's a good question there of how we feeling, how we feel with this information. That's a good question there too. I think that kind of opens up some stuff here. So is there anything else that you want me to cover this morning, or we feel good? Or I guess I'll hand the football back to you there. Take command, Black Widow. I think you're on mute there.
If everybody can give Aaron a big thank you for, volunteering his time to come and teach us for an hour and giving us this great resources and website. I mean, it has so much, and thank you for the hands up. Thank you. It had so much information, and he put it on one document for us to go back and reference, and then also offering his time to review, if you have questions about your lessons plans, because lesson plans are due on the 29th of January. Any tips that you want to ask him, we're just so appreciative of him and his time. And so if everybody could just give him a shout out and just say thank you, I think that's